Well, hello everyone, and here to show you right here, I'll talk about for Adobe Sign right here. I'm sure most of us are familiar with Adobe Sign. It's a source of tool that through Adobe to where you can actually sign documents and also any source of information and to be modified and of course that you're generated, but you're still that. But I'm going to show you right here. This right here is a document a Photoshop document right here that I was using right here for an example for a signature right here. And we can see this right here that you have right here of this signature. I'm like, yeah, this work right here that's based on a signature right here, along with any comments that you would want to place onto the text right here, right? So let's just say that if I were to click right here on the writing tool right here, and if I were to click my name right here, and then I will be given these arrows right here. These arrows right here, if I were to, with these arrows, and you can see right here, that's giving me this option toward it that I can, expand on like the size and quantity of the signature, but still that one thing that we can also keep in mind whenever it comes to computer generated and also electronic signatures, though, is that how that they're stamped onto a document. And let's just say that if you're trying to sign something like just maybe just for fun or just for verification purposes or anything like that. It could also maybe be a bias toward if you want to just sign a document just stating as toward it. Maybe if it was due to a concert, like if you actually went to a concert or to an event, like if it was an open house event or something like that, and that you were able to talk to somebody there at the lab or somewhere like that, and then you want to know too that a signature will be collected, just for that purpose. And so you see right here that I can make the size bigger and make it smaller and all that, but still that. But if we could see this right here, that with the electronic signature right here, that there's a way that for how this is used, using Adobe Sign right here, right? But a lot of times it sure seems that way that you can actually move the signature around like that, and if you can see like that, you can actually move it around like that. And half the time you want to know too that to me though that like a lot of computer softwares would probably say that if you can actually move around something like that, such as a stamp or just something such as that if you're trying to sign a document, just for verification purposes or something like that. But still, that whenever it comes to signing a document, that it sure seems that way that there's a way of how to modify a document for what software, what program is being used to be able to sign a document. So not only just the signature that's going to be required too, but then also provide the information about the software that was used, just to be able to sign that document, and what is the computer generated compared to actually using the tools, and then also that anything else that is related to just for verification purposes. But I mainly want to show everybody here, talk about with the signature right here, that with this signature right here, that the way we think about it though is that if you were to actually save a file like like it's like a security code, and I guess the way that you would actually do that is if you actually if you used the software before, or if anything, that if you were to just pick like a code to where you can go ahead and set for security pin, and also that there's this option here to where you can actually set before you actually sign an electronic document, that anything that you're sending to the clients and all that you would be able to set the security features. So right now that there's these options to where just for practice, that you're just doing this just to kind of get some training on how it works, and then you just really just to understand the basics about how the tools work and everything. So in case of anybody that may say is that really whenever you use this software here, that it sure seems that way, that it's just really just for practice purposes. But let's just say that that we don't need to have it to where that if you're trying to sign anything important and find out that to really that there's going to be some of these requirements, but then also that there's going to be what you call just for verification purposes, and so if there's going to be any sorts of documents that you're going to be working on, like anybody says that yeah, especially like the publishing companies, that a lot of publishing companies like such as Distiller or any other source of digital copyright, copying publishing companies such as InCopy, that they're going to be looking out toward that anything that you're going to be working on, that for number one, that if it's all of your publishing, if it's all of your work, but then also that if you're trying to show somebody something, and that that's what I'm showing everybody here. Talk about for electronic signature right here. You're able to open up a PDF file right here, and actually you're able to show everybody here what a signature looks like, what digital signature. But what we're also talking about that whenever you sign a document though, you click on that tool right there where you can actually e-sign a document, right? But at the same time, that there's like another substitute manner. It's a substitute manner to where that's not your actual signature. It's actually computer generated signature. So a lot of these programs would probably be looking out toward okay, signatures that don't match what your actual autograph looked like from earlier, and also that we're talking about is toward this generated signature right here, that you can actually change the size, and then you can actually and I want to know too that if some companies are going to maybe require to where that you're going to have a witness or something specifying about how what programs that you use just to be able to, before you actually sign a document, what programs that were used to be able to sign something. So I'll go ahead and put right here, just tab on that right there. And this right here, I'm like, that there's a way. I'm like, if I can be given these other options here, but still, that the option to where if you're happy with that, or if you want to resize it, shrink that down. But it sure seems that way that whenever it comes to talking about signatures, though, that I'll go ahead and just click on that and add out, delete it. But still, that have right here is this signature right here. So that it's pretty much what that is right there. That those like stamps right there. If you want to sign something manually, then you'll be able to do that. But then you're given these options right here, to where you can actually use a signature that you created from before, or if anything, that you have these other options here. But still, I mainly want to point this out right here because that whenever it comes to looking at like a magazine cover or something like that, or anything else that you're going to be looking at and working on, and let's just say if it's any sorts of documents such as for a doctor's anything such as a doctor's note or anything like that, if you were trying to add in a comments, or if you were trying to send something electronically, and most of the time the fact of the matter is if you're trying to send something electronically to somebody, and in order to be able to do that, then it's like you would actually have that option to where that you have where you can place text, and then you could also place signatures, and so you have this option here, and a lot of times it sure seems that way that whenever you first start looking at things, I'm like very carefully, and like want to know just a little bit too that you're able to move this signature around, and so what does that usually mean whenever you are able to see your name being moved around like that? And like anybody will probably say too that does that pretty much mean to where that you can actually place it somewhere, like anywhere on that document, right? But half the time it sure seems that way that your name, of course, it's your name, it's supposed to be your voice, right? And the way with this digital software works, though, that we learn to where that how come that we don't need to think about our signature as any source of marketing tool, like to where that somebody else, a company can receive it and then they can, yeah, they can copy and paste that same signature. And then I know that for sure, like anybody say to her, that, yeah, well, if you were to actually sign a document, then you know for sure that that there are security settings that you can set for that, and that there's a way you can do that. But still, the key factor matter that I want to talk about right here is to talk about the signatures being able to be moved around like that. So whenever you do move or whenever you're able to move a signature around like that, to me though, that's just like, I'm like, yeah, beside generate, it's computer generated to where you can actually, it's waiting for you to be able to allow it to where if you want to go ahead and place that, place that signature somewhere. I'm like, but still, but right now I'm like, yeah, it looks like yeah, it's going to allow me to yep. So you click on the side right there, and then it'll allow you to where you can stamp your name, you stamp your signature just like that right there on the document. And the way we look at that though is that yeah, well, really that if we're getting ready to yeah, if you're trying to sign something, or if we're talking about is toward it that if we're talking about making it convenient for almost everybody else to learn how to use that tool, then we're also talking about is that yeah, you sign, whenever you place your name on any source of document or any source of image though, and if it's a PDF file, that it sure seems that way toward it. We probably thinking is toward it. We go ahead and sign our name there, but then at the same time, you're probably thinking is that okay, maybe if you have somebody else who wants to sign, or but still, I get the point I'm making to where right here is that with your signature though, why should your signature be any source of a tool toward a possibly of a marketing source toward that the companies would try to use your signature as like any source of marketing tip toward that they're trying to get information about you and stamp it onto a card. Let's just say if it's a deck of cards or something like that, and then they're going to want to try to sell some of that information based on the work that you do. So let's just say if it's your work, but then at the same time that there's going to be somebody who's going to try to want to use your information as like a marketing tip. And I know not all companies are maybe going to try to do that in particular, but let's just say that if maybe some companies that maybe don't realize it, or maybe if they can just assume like, yeah, they were just really just training somebody on how to use some of this stuff here, but still that we probably thinking as to where that why will we want to think 1 second that our name could be used as like any source of marketing source. And you likely want to know too that anything such as Adobe sign tools or anything like that would be used just to be able to fill and sign a document. But at the time, you're likely thinking is toward okay, yeah, well, if you export it or open it up with a different program, and then these are your abilities for what you can do. What you can actually do is you can maybe change and polish up the background, and maybe if you can go back and edit, so yeah, that so a lot of the stuff about digital software just to do the studies about, but it seems like a lot of professionals would probably say too that just to make sure that you don't hurt the original, that there's going to be what you call this option to where you can actually save a copy of those changes that were made, anything that was modified. And so that's why it sure seems that way, that that everything seems to be the questions that whenever you look at a document like this right here, and you're probably thinking as to where this right here, this could be moved around. It could be moved around just like that. Your signature, that this right here, just like a stamp, that could be moved around and placed anywhere on that document. But at the same time, that you're probably thinking is that, that was not there originally, or that's not the actual signature right there. So if I were to place, like a lot of times, most of the documents, of course, if you're going to be signing anything electronically, professionally, that usually it's right down here at the very bottom right here. And yeah, if you're trying to what size it would be, but still, that usually it's on the right side, like that right there. It's on the right side. So if you're trying to sign anything, and let's just say that if you're going to be a publisher working on something in 102s, that if there are certain corners of that document that you would want to place that signature just for security purposes, that you would want to place it there just because that for the most of the time that's where that people will say is to where that you were you were the original creator of that document. But then also that there's this option right here to where you can actually verify, okay, if you're the, like, yeah, so just like anything, just for verification purposes or, something like that, but still, but the way we think about that, though, is that the talking about with signatures, though, that the way we think about documents, though, that, is your name really something really to play around? Like this right here, this magnifying glass option right here. And you see right here is my name right there visible through the glass like that, if we can all see that right there. And so it's like 102 is that, yeah, that whenever it comes to understanding about the digital signatures and documents, though, that it sure seems that way that whenever it comes to understanding about how it all works, though, and you're probably thinking that, hey, that with these documents right here, that whenever you do see your name right there, and it sure seems that way, that, yeah, your name, of course, is not just the spelling of your name, but then also that this is also another way of how do you want to look at it, is this tool that it's a tool to where that you can actually use this right here just for, I'm like, yeah, that your name that represents this document, but like anybody would probably say too, that if you're going to be using any digital software, though, then let's just say that if you were, like, if you have, like, using it for your own personal reasons or anything like that, like, I don't know if you want to kind of call it maybe a little bit of an attribute or something like that, to use for digital software, that for what the program that's recognizing your activities for what you're doing. So this right here, this option right here is giving me this ability to where I'm like, yeah, you can actually hover with like kind of like a magnifying glass, just like that, and with my signature right there, and so it's like, yeah, you're able to find certain areas of that document where you would like to place that signature, and before you save any changes, that where exactly are you trying to place this signature right here. So it's like, yeah, so I guess do we find that real convenient to where anywhere you're going to be signing a document, though, that let's just say that on the papers that they'll tell you that you can just try to sign this document, try to sign it on the top right here, try and sign it right here, and so that just for security purposes, that there might be companies that might ask anybody that just for security purposes, please sign right up here on the top right, or please sign right up here on the left, just to indicate that that's you, or for anything else that just to verify that that's actually you that's doing that activity right there. And so the way we think about that, though, with signatures, though, that whenever we think about that, signing something, and do we necessarily think about is that really that why do we need to think about our name being used for anything such as maybe for an agreement, such as if we're talking about for an agreement for a bill, or maybe for that photograph, that copy, that magazine, that by that publisher, or maybe for a photograph. That there's ways of how you can verify about who was the original publisher and what the document that was created, that source of information. But still, that the way we think about a signature, though, that it sure seems that way. That why would anybody want to think about is that your name is more than just the spelling of your name, right? Your name is also used, just for like what you call like yeah, like a just a little bit like a profile, maybe not really, but still that if you're going to be if you've used this Adobe Sign option before, then you know for sure that there will be like what you call these options like yeah, the recent activity that would show up especially, but still that I really just think too that when we're thinking about signatures though that we don't need to think about our signature being misused toward that yeah that there's companies out there that are trying to you know uh, get any sorts of marketing, trying to make a trying to get business service or something like that from a signature. So a lot of times that whenever we think about e-sign though that we pretty much what does e-sign basically mean? That means that you're signing something electronically, that you're allowing it toward it that the software that you're using just to be able to run it just to be able to process that information electronically using the internet connection, that you're basically I'm like yeah, you're agreeing to the terms of use to that digital software, right? But at the same time, it sure seems that way that a lot of the stuff that you see in the digital software that yeah, needs to be verified, and then also just for copyrights, and also anything else that you could probably think just for security purposes and all. But still, but one thing that I just try to understand here too, that whenever you're going to be if you're going to be working some of these tools right here, that that you probably think is toward it, compared to using that electronic pencil, and that you're using that electronic signature, Mike, yeah, if most of us are kind of getting tired of signing something just by using that pen and having to write all the time, so anybody say is toward yeah, well, really that if that's really if electronic signature, of course, is not really used for that purpose. What it's really used for is toward it. I'm like, yeah, it's supposed to be a tool to where allow you to where have that ability to where you can sign a document electronically, and of course, like anybody says, to where if you're going to be signing anything, just for verification purposes, that if you're trying to sign something based on an agreement or something like that, and then I know that there will be what you call these computer. I'm like, yeah, these programs to where that they can verify what program that was used, just to be able to just to tell that okay, if that was actually you signing that document, if that was actually you using it, and so the way we see this right here, that some of these documents, I'm like, yeah, some of these signatures right here that were already there, but any changes that I would make to this document right here, of course, that would actually show up, right here. But still, that yeah, you'll be able to move these around right here. You see this right here that since I'm able to move these around just because that I had not saved these changes yet. So whenever you do save any changes, make any edits to a document, then a lot of these companies would be, yeah, you'll just be checking out when you verify. But still, I'm mainly talking about signatures right here. I know, like anybody would probably say too, if you were to be looking at like a transcript document or something like that, anything, maybe tax information or anything such as yeah, like any other source of document that you would be using like if it's the same method, but still, if you're going to be signing anything, though, that I'm trying to show everybody here that there's a way, but still, I could probably think about 3 other ways, but still, where you can actually sign manually, and where that there's a signature that also inquires a personal PIN to use, just so that way that the system is able to verify that that's you actually doing those changes there. But so we don't need to think about signatures as another way of how do you want to call it, like to where the makeup kit, to where it is supposed to be, like this makeup kit to where you can do whatever you want with it, and then you could actually use it however you like, and so but still that but I also keep thinking too that that whenever it comes to using an electronic signature, though, that we don't need to think about is as to where, yeah, if you see your name right there and knowing about certain purposes for how it's used, the way that you use a signature right there, and I can go and just hover over this right here like a magnifying glass, but if we can see this right here to where that whenever you do add any comments to anything like that, and it sure seems that way to where that, most of the time people would say is to where you would really use it if you're trying to get feedback from other people. If you're trying to add any comments or suggestions, that you would actually use this tool right here. If you were to add, I'm like, yeah, use the comment tool if you're trying to, add any comments, to what you think about, certain work on, designs or anything that you want to speak about, that you would go ahead and use that feature for that. But still, with the signature right here, that half the time it sure seems that way. That if you were to sign, a document multiple times, and half the time you're probably thinking as to where, okay, why would you want to do that? But you sign right here, and then you sign right there. You're able to enlarge that right there. But yeah, tell everybody to, yeah, just for practice reasons. But still, so a lot of times it sure seems that way, that whenever we do sign something, that do we necessarily need to think about that toward it, that that if between what's real and what's really considered to be generated, and generated, or that's not the professional way of how experts look at that. So that's why it sure seems that way, that when we think about signatures, so that it's not just the spelling of our name, of course. That's another way of how yeah, you're given this software the ability to word it, how to create a signature, and how to modify a signature, and of course how to place the signature. So yeah, that the whole purpose about digital software, though, that really, that checking out the advanced features on how a lot of that works. But at the same time, it sure seems that way, that whenever we think about that, though, is toward the, yeah, this right here is the spelling of my name. But people might even say too that that's not what your actual signature looks like. Whenever you actually sign something electronically, though, manually, if you sign it manually, that's that right there, you would represent your actual signature compared to this generated option right here. So yeah, so whenever we look at signatures most of the time, it sure seems that way, that you just really have to think about as to where that really about the spelling of your name, or that what yeah, for what your signature really looks like. So it seems like to me that you just kind of get an idea about as to where that yeah, that just for verification purposes, that there's going to maybe be a software that's going to ask you to please sign manually, and then please stamp your name right there, so that way you can verify that that's actually you that's doing that. So a lot of times that just for security purposes, that you had the time, you're probably thinking as to where yeah, well, your name can be moved around just like that. It could be moved around. But I just really think too that if you're trying to show somebody, if you're trying to do like a presentation here on how this works right here, that you would recommend doing something like this, just to really show somebody really what's going on with that document, and how it's all put together, and how this works, and how a lot of that is being modified, and what sorts of activity that's going on with that. And so that, if anything, somebody says that that's whenever that you would really require a signature from a witness, just to verify what's going on during the time of whenever that document was signed. But I'm showing everybody here this right here, and I know that certain reasons to where when we think about a signature, though, an autograph, that we don't need to think about that as like a way of how to where people think that that anything anything legally done or anything illegal or anything like that. But still, that I just really think that that whenever it comes to signatures, though, that that first of all that you would probably like to, if anything, just to get some practice with how it all works. And if you're going to be signing a document electronically, though, that a lot of sites would say is toward it really has to come from your side. Whenever you do sign a document, it can't be from the same device, or if anything, it has to be securely modified just before those just before those steps would take place right here. So a lot of times it sure seems that way, that that whenever we think about a signature right there, that yeah, whenever we think about a signature, though, that most of the time, if you get tired of writing your name multiple times on paper, though, that maybe that this right here will be a tool to use just to be able to stamp your name. I'm like, yeah, if you're trying to stamp your name, or if you were to be using that just for to verify, or like, yeah, but still, but on the other hand, that I just really think too that that looking at this document right here, that we look at that, and that you're probably thinking that hey, that's how you spell my name, but that's not my actual signature. That's not the one I usually use. So a lot of the times, though, that if you're trying to sign a document electronically, that the directions would probably encourage you toward it. It may seem like that you're signing that document twice or maybe four times. That there's a column on the top where you sign a date here on the left corner right here. So a lot of times, yeah, applications will probably do that toward that. Yeah, please, if you're going to be signing somewhere, anywhere on that document, that please sign right here, and that you see sign right here on the left, right here. If you're going to be signing, like just for verification purposes, that go ahead and say that like yeah, what area of that document did you sign? And let's just say that the directions tell you that if you're going to sign, yeah, the publishers would sign on the left, but then those modifiers or those editors would sign on the right. So if you're going to pick anywhere on that document where you would sign, and more likely that there will probably be an expert that would say that if you're going to sign that document by generation, and like using the signature right here, and with this tool right here, and so if you're going to be signing anything, placing any, like saving any changes right there, that they would ask you toward it, please sign on the left. If you are the publisher, sign on the right if you're the editor. And please sign right here on the top if you're the modifier. I'm like, if you were the person modifying that document, or yeah, if you were just the person who actually find an interest in that document, sign right here on the top left. So a lot of times, it sure seems that way, that do we necessarily have to think about the documents being shared that way, and also yeah, just for verification purposes, to why publishers and editors would do that. And at the time, you want to know too that you really think about that way, to where that, okay, yeah, you sign a document, right? But at the same time, it's like, yeah, that just for practice reasons, or just because, I'm like, yeah, that there was that edit did not save, that change didn't save the last time, so you had to go back and redo some of that work. So sometimes it's possible that somebody might even say that if you had to redo the work in the process, and let's just say if you try to use that same document, but some might say just for security purposes to go ahead and start by, I'm like, yeah, start by, I'm like, yeah, if you're trying to save your changes, not by not hurting the original, that they try to save that document just by saving a copy of that. And I know a lot of editors would say that's how that they're able to perform that, is that whenever you actually save a copy of those changes that were made. and just for copyright issues, and just for security purposes also, that the way we think about the signature right there. And so a lot of times that we probably thinking is toward it, yeah, well, back whenever you were very young, know that most of the time that you had problems with trying to remember what the date was, if it was a Thursday or a Friday morning or something like that, that whenever you go into class and you're trying to remember if it was a Friday or a Saturday, and you're probably one or two that a lot of times your test scores and everything, you were always trying to remember what the date was, like what's today, and that's why it sure seems that way, that a lot of stuff that we kind of call that, a lot of the important stuff, and the key factor matter is knowing that if you're going to be editing a document, though, that you're likely thinking is toward, yeah, well, you got one document that shows your saved results, and one of them that's the original, and then the other one is the one that's modified, the one that shows your changes right there. So it sure seems that way, that when we think about a signature, though, that it's another way of stating as toward it that that there's more of your ability for what you can do with your signature, just because that the use of digital software that gives us that ability to where we can actually place a stamp onto a document and consider that to be signed. And some companies might say that that's not how that works. The way it works is that that they'll actually send you a template that you can use to sign a form. Sent to you private. Let me so I know a lot of these companies that would say is toward well, just to give for verification or just for permissions, just for that just for authorization purposes only, for the way that works. But so that's something to think about. And so the way I think about it too, though, that whenever it comes to digital software, though, that you see right here, that I have right here, that for when that was signed and date right there. But really that this right here is some of my classwork right here. But still, that I know with me, though, that whenever I look at some of these documents here, that it seems like that we all probably thinking is toward it. How do these tools work, and then can you use these tools just for verification purposes, or to maybe I'm like, yeah, can you really use it for like applying for a job? Can you really use it? Just to follow. I'm like, yeah, just for your taxes and also anything else important that you got to take care of. And with this virtual learning and everything, and I'm sure everybody else would probably say too that yeah, you might do that all the time, to where if you're trying to sign something electronically, that just to kind of get adjusted to where how it works, and okay, this is how that works, but still. But at the same time, know that yeah, your name could be moved around like that, and at the time, you're likely want to know too that yeah, if that's not the signature that you use each and every time, so it's possible that just for verification purposes, that you know clients and like your businesses are going to ask you to where that if you can go ahead and sign that document manually, so that way we can verify. Update your signature every now and then, just for security purposes, and answer a few questions. That's what she's saying. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. I know that that's a lot of information there, but I just thought I'd talk about that because I know with a lot of this digital software, though, it sure seems that way. That when we think about our work, though, and you want to know too that really that do we want to think about that to where our name is going to be up for market, and if anything, maybe if you are recognized for something that's popular, if anything, that I would probably say that it's okay with your authorization, but still that with a lot of the marketing techniques nowadays, it sure seems that way, that whenever you do look at your name on a poster like that, and your 102 is toward you what you really are doing is that you really are using it just to just to show people about just to get some practice with it about spelling your name. And so I can anybody say that if you're going to be talking to maybe three other clients and maybe being on group call here, and people want to know too that how exactly does that work. So if you're trying to do any sorts of presentation, no, and with that presentation, and let's just say if you're trying to show somebody how something works, and then yeah, use that for that purpose. But at the same time, no, that we don't need to have that to where that something that like yeah, something that generated, and also that you like say anybody say too that if you're going to be signing a document electronically though, that there's ways of how you can do that, and just for verification purposes. And if you think that that tool was misused a couple of times, and but still that but on the other hand that we're also talking about is that with signing anything really electronically though, that's kind of giving you the ability to where you can actually sign a document and send it electronically, right? If it's to pay a bill, or if it's just to order some concert tickets, or to order magazines or catalogs or anything like that. And that's why it sure seems that way that the key factor matter is to know is that yeah, that I can also say to where that any kids that could be watching too is that your signature matters whenever it comes to taking care of something important. You might think that your initials are just there. Your initials are just there. They're not really. It's not really there just because. I'm like, yeah, my initials are not displayed right there, but your initials are there. So let's just say that by say that yeah, your initials are there, right? But it's like people might say is toward it, we don't need to think about that is toward it, okay, if there's any changes that you need to make onto a document, that, yeah, that's pretty much, that's proof indicating that you made that change, you made that correction. So a lot of times the way we think about that, though, we talk about for signatures, though, that, you should we don't need to think about our name as being used as any source of a marketing tool like on eBay. Say, yeah, and if anything, just to teach, if you're trying to teach anybody how the basics about a lot of this works right here, but still, that a lot of times anybody probably say too that yeah, well, your name matters, right? Your name should matter, for how it's used. Your name, of course, that's another way of how you want to call is a state about your presence. And, if you're going to be present during the time of the meeting, then, you need to, be able to have, your ability to where people can see and read your name and knowing about how the tool works and everything. But at the same time, it sure seems that way that, yeah, if you're trying to make a correction on something or anything else that's, mistakenly, printed or something like that, and you're likely want to know too that most of those signatures will be used for that purpose, and so that's why it sure seems that way that looking at our signature like that and looking at our name like that, and it gives us like that ability to where where you can actually do more with it besides just read. Okay, your name is written on the top of that paper for that reason because that's your test scores, or that you were playing the game, or you read that paper. It's actually a bookmark that represents you that during the time that whenever you were reading about that story or something like that, but something like that. But anyway, but I thought I'd show everybody that. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.